Okay, so the Property Market West Midlands report, and it's a review of the key trends in the national and local housing markets. So I've got some graphics here with some stats for you all to see as I'm going through. But I guess the first message that I really want to give was that following the election result and some clarity around Brexit, it was really reflected in the spring housing market, and the year definitely got off with a bang. The annual house price growth has been about 2.1% across the nation, so the market's still moving in a positive direction up until that point. Despite the fall in March of mortgage approvals, as you can see on the screen, the first quarter of 2020 actually saw an annual increase of 3.7% in approvals. So again, like I said, the year really did start well for sales. Following a great first quarter, the UK went into lockdown on the 23rd of March, as I'm sure you're all aware. This resulted in a drop in transactions in March of nearly 10%, and then April followed. The volumes were estimated to be about half the amount of April last year, so it really did have a massive effect. Now, on the 11th of May, the government announced the UK COVID-19 exit strategy, and England's residential market effectively opened up again. So as the 13th of May, estate agents were allowed to go back to work, start doing appointments again, and so on and so forth. Following lockdown, the Chancellor announced unprecedented support for business and individuals, and the Bank of England lowered interest rates to 0.1%. So obviously mortgage rates are still at a very low and very good level. Despite these measures, however, the economy has been affected, as expected, already contracting by around 2% in the 3 months to March, according to the Office for National Statistics. And the Bank of England expects the economy to contract by up to 14% in 2020, and perhaps only returning to pre-COVID levels by mid-2021. So I guess the nation has begun its journey back to normality, but it is going to take time for the economy to recover. But here's a really good stat that I picked up from the first day, effectively, of the market opening again, and there was actually 5.2 million visits to Rightmove on the 13th of May, which was 4% up on the same day last year. So there really was an appetite, and it really does demonstrate the amount of pent-up demand, and I'm sure it's going to help get the market back on track. In fact, sales inquiries actually doubled between Tuesday the 12th of May and Wednesday the 13th of May following that news, and they are only currently about 10% down on a year ago. So again, it just shows that appetite there from buyers. Now, on the whole, agents believe transactions will take around 6 to 9 months to reach pre-COVID levels, and prices will take around 11 months to get back up to that sort of level as well. Long-term price growth expectations are similar to pre-COVID levels, with average growth of just over 2% per annum over the next 5 years, being predicted by RICS, the Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors. So that's a snapshot of the sales market. Now let's look at lettings and the rental market. So during lockdown, agents reported weakened demand and fewer landlord instructions, which is no surprise, of course, considering the restrictions on moving and conducting appointments and so on. It was an incredibly strange time, which was working from home and relying on video viewings to show properties off to potential tenants. It wasn't too bad. Interestingly, I actually agreed just over 30 lets subject to a viewing during that time, and that was without doing a single viewing, of course. That was really just relying on the video. And to be fair, only a handful of those lets fell through following the inspection once we were able to actually let somebody go in and take a look around the property. This has now actually seen us implement videos into our marketing as standard, and we are now doing a lot less viewings as part of our COVID-19 policy, which is still very much in operation. We have to conduct business in a safe manner and follow the guidelines. But actually productivity is there, and we're finding that we're doing less viewings for the same amount of deals because we're only dealing with the quality following the process. So it's actually not a bad thing moving forward from a business point of view. But back to the stats, and as you can see on the screen, rents increased by about 1.5% in April, but it can take time for supply and demand pressures to show. So it'll be interesting to see what the stats are like in a few months' time. Agents expect some rental falls in the coming months. Now, I've got to be honest, I can relate to this. I myself am carrying more available stock than I have in a while, and we are having to slightly reduce some properties to get them let. So I think the surge of supply following lockdown has definitely had a bit of an effect there. But that being said, the long-term projections stand at about 2.5% of growth per annum in rental values over the next 5 years. So that's quite a big increase over 5 years. So hopefully that happens. That'll be good news for landlords and money you're getting in from your investment. And with an estimated 39.5% of existing tenancies set to expire in the third quarter of 2020, it's likely going to be a very busy quarter for agents and landlords. So that'll be interesting. Maybe the latter part of the year, the second half of the year, is really going to, keep us all going and give us plenty to do. Another interesting stat from the Office of National Statistics: the rental market now makes up close to 1 in 5 households across the UK living in the private rented sector, with over 750,000 more households with children living in the sector than a decade ago. So obviously the size of the rental sector, the private rented sector, is still growing. So as far as I'm concerned, buy-to-let still very much has a place. And if the prices are going to take a slight hit in the next few months, and with what's going on, it might be a good time to source a couple of deals if you are looking for a buy-to-let at the moment and thinking of investing. So bear that in mind. So the current government strategy is generally now focused on tenants. Obviously, with all the legislation coming up, I'm going to obviously let Dawn talk to you more about that. But simply following the tenant fee ban last year, there's manifesto pledges surrounding the creation of lifetime deposits and the abolition of no-fault evictions. They're looking set to obviously come in at some point, which we've been talking about for a little while. So I think, moving forward, I think the government really are geared towards trying to make it as fair as possible for tenants. So it just goes nicely into what Dawn's going to be talking about. It's all about protecting yourself at the moment.